We're just two veterans that are connecting with other veterans in the community to talk about business and all things life.
Hi, I'm John from Scott & Parker. We sell beanies, scarves and socks.
G'day, I'm Steve from Vortrekker Australia. We're redefining the duffel bag.
And if you want to share your own service history, we have a digital platform where we will record that for you.
If you're interested in buying any of our products or interested in coming on the podcast, look at the links below in the description.
Oh, good day, Steve. Good to be speaking to you again on episode 4 of our Veterans Catch-Up.
Thanks, John. Very happy to be here today. We're just going to have a little bit of a relaxed social chat about what we're doing and some of the challenges we've got in e-commerce.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important because especially when you get out and start getting into your own business, it can be quite a tough environment. And Steve, you and I have both been through the process. I've started a couple of businesses in my life. And so understanding the challenges of that and being able to share and have some discussions around that is always important.
No, I can't wait just to have a bit of a chat about some of the challenges we've got. And, we've been helping each other out over the last few weeks since we've met. So let's get into it. Because one of the other things we want to actually talk about, it's not going to just be promoting people's businesses in the veteran community that are veterans. It's also talking about, anything that people want to talk about. It's, issues that maybe they're facing post-service, or maybe it's, that they don't know where to get a certain, type of support from, or maybe that they're just struggling, with their, with readjusting to, life post-service. But they're the kind of things that I think, our way that we go about, I love to help people, you love to help people. That's the kind of stuff that we could really discuss and explore in these podcasts as well.
No, definitely. I think there's big opportunity there. Steve, getting back to e-com.
Yes.
How do you go about that whole process? So I've finished up in the military now. I want to start a business. What are the next steps? How do we get into the detail of it? We've spoken quite a bit at a high level, but let's discuss a little bit more detail about how we go about it.
Well, I think that there's sort of two pathways for the e-com world, and one is one that you went on, which was very much a self-educated process from what you've told me. You haven't really engaged in many external services or expertise. You've really just invested in yourself, in learning and following YouTubes, and that's correct, isn't it, John?
Yeah, that's right, Steve. But my situation is slightly different.
Yeah,
as you see, I've got a lot of grey hair.
But you got a lot of hair, though. That's good.
Yeah. So I've been involved in starting a lot of businesses before. So I have that business background and structure. So that's helped me. That I felt I understand enough of the business background. I don't need that.
Yeah.
Where I've really needed to learn, and my learning curve has been really steep, is understanding the social media aspect of it and the e-com sites. How do you set up an e-com website and that? So that was really where my learning curve was very steep.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing about that. So that was a lot of studying and Googling and going back and forth. And I made a whole lot of errors, but that's part of the process.
But that's where I think there's sort of two ways, and you're very much that self-taught, self-educated pathway. I went with a different pathway. Yeah. So, newly out of, defense over the last couple of years, working with my wife, what we did was we explored an opportunity through a company to do a course. And it's interesting. The course, I would say, is very much like a uni course or, high-level TAFE course. Is very much a little bit self-led as far as all the syllabus and all the education's there. They do it through a lot of videos, and then you go and do workbooks, or you do, assignments, which is all not just for learning. It's actually to build your business. But then there's also coaching, one-on-one coaching, group coaching. So it's very much a holistic program that I enrolled in to learn everything from right at the start of saying, you've now signed up to do ecom, what does that mean? It means you need to now find a product and a niche and an avatar, and, customer avatar. So very much a step process right through to then launch of your brand. And then, where I'm at the moment, where I've successfully, started selling the bag, which, for my brand. So yeah, just two different styles, I think, John.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. If you have the budget, it's probably good to be able to spend that and get that structure to guide you through the process.
Yeah.
Because it definitely does help. The only problem is whether you go everything on your own or drive that sort of learning from scratch yourself or going through your process. Nothing's easy. And you still have to put in a huge amount of work. The guys will put the structure for you. But if you don't go and find that product that you're going to sell or market, and you don't go and they'll put the structure, this is what you need to do next, but you still have to go and do it. So it's a matter of standing on your own 2 feet and then going through that process.
The thing I found was, I always, was a hard worker, and I always, had confidence in what I was doing, was valuable to, the organization. But yeah, the cool thing about doing this, like any small business, is that you're doing it for yourself. So what you put into it's what you're going to get out of it. And like you were just alluding to, gosh, this is not easy. It's actually really hard. But the kind of people I think that veterans are, the character that we have, and, that I guess, journey that we've all gone on to start at the bottom and build up and build up. You build up your qualifications, you build up your experience, your time, in your rank or, in your service. That's the whole idea of ecom as well. Like any new business, it's a baby, you build it up, and it starts, being a toddler where it starts walking around, and, eventually, hopefully a teenager that starts sprinting around, and, that's the journey that we're on. But gee, yeah, a lot to invest, time, money as well. Happy to explore that with any listeners that want to talk about it in the future, but we can give you an idea of what the breakdown is, probably both cost in time and cost in money to build up a business.
Yeah, I think we can do it both ways. So because both of us have gone through both processes, so we both know what the impact and what the costings are for both models.
Yeah.
So we're happy to advise and engage with people and help them make that decision. Do they want to invest upfront, or do they want to go alone? And what are the pitfalls of both?
Yeah.
Because we've been through it, we can do that.
Yeah. I wanted a holistic program because I had no idea where to start. Like you said, you had a very good business background. You probably knew exactly the kind of tools that you needed to get you forward. There probably is a third hybrid option as well, John, to be honest with you. Yeah, there probably is one where you can do a lot of self-education, which there's a lot of education out there for free. You can follow different people on social media or YouTube and really learn the art. I think that the problem with that, though, compared to where my course is driving you, it's driving you to the solution straight away in the right sequence and the right step. Whereas if you did it yourself, you could even at certain milestones where you needed a website built for you, or you needed, a marketing group, you could then outsource and pay someone for those elements. Yeah. But I know that in my training, one of the really important parts is that we get drilled into us is, if you don't understand every part of your business, I'm not saying they're not saying you have to be an expert in every part of your business, but if you do not have an appreciation, then you'll get sort of taken for a ride at times by these other places that you outsource everything to. They may take you for a ride. So really, really important to understand nearly every part of your business so that then you can appreciate time, cost, the outcomes from it.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of people out there that are going to try and take you along the road.
Oh, yeah, take you for a ride.
And I think the other thing to point out, that whether you go your route, even through a structured route or my route, there'll be a time where you feel this is like overwhelming.
Yes.
I've got my back against the wall. Do I really want to do this, or what should I do?
Yeah.
And the guys used to always say to us in the army, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And they used to always drill that into you. So that's what you have to find a way to overcome that. And that's where we can help out too, where you just need someone to talk to.
Yes.
We can chat and say, okay, well, it is an issue because it's not something you can always approach your wife or your spouse or whatever, because that's also the challenge is you're in it and it's hard and you're in the trenches and that, but you also have to have a good relationship, and you don't want to have your partner, whether it's your wife or husband or whoever it is, whether you're male or female, they might be, you don't want them stressed out because you're stressed out. So sometimes you need an independent person just to bounce something off and say, what do I do here? Or how do I go to the next step?
When I started, one of the first things I realized was that it would be nice to have a mentor, and have someone that you, like you're saying, you can bounce things off. Obviously, there's different types of mentors out there, but there wasn't really many mentors in the veteran space, in the e-com space that I could find. So yeah, that's something that we could offer people as well, is that support. It doesn't have to be ongoing. It could just be a once-off, but yeah, let us know, because we're happy to help you. I think sometimes make decisions. You get a bit frozen sometimes in what to do. We've both been on this journey now for a while, so that could help. Even just talking to people, I've found that one of the best things that I can do when I'm a bit stuck, maybe unmotivated, or maybe finding that I'm in the, they refer to it as like a valley of despair, where you feel like you're at the bottom of a deep, dark hole and there's no way out, there's no ladder, there's no rope. It's just trying to find a way. And that's where our veteran community is the strongest. I think that a lot of the people that will be listening will all relate to, we've all been in the bottom of a big, deep, dark hole, in your training or in your careers. And we always find a way out. That many times when I deployed, even on, field exercises where I didn't have the right resources, I didn't have the right manning, but being Australian and being in the military, you just find a way. You just solve the problem. I remember being up at Shoalwater Bay one day, and I went to a brigade meeting, a logistics meeting, and they sort of said, oh, we don't have anyone to do this support. And I put up my hand and I said, oh, bring your vehicle over here, we'll fix that. Oh, I don't have anyone. These are all the different units. Everyone was there with problems, and I just kept saying, we'll fix it, we'll fix it, we'll fix it. I got pulled aside afterwards by one of the brigade officers, and they said, listen, you can't fix everyone's problems. And I'm like, I'm stuck up here for a couple of months. At the end of the day, I can fix everyone's problems. Just bring them to me, and you just have that approach. You just find a way to solve the problems. Not being silly and not going, oh yeah, I'll do everything. It's just saying that we will find a way. That's an Australian sort of quality, I think.
But one of the best things you can do, Steve, in starting a business is setting up. You speak about mentors, and what you need to actually do is set it up formally as you can call what you like, a board or whatever. And when you're very small, you won't have the funds to pay them.
Yeah.
But because when you first start, you might go to your accountant or to your lawyer for advice. But they're not always the best people to advise you. So what you have to try and do is, if you can, try and set up a board, even if it's just 2 or 3 people.
Yes.
And you might find people out there who you'll be surprised that are willing to help you, and they won't charge you. Because when you've got a really small business, you're not going to need advice every month or whatever. You might be one meeting every quarter to review your figures, your sales, what's happening, and to bounce off, say, okay, this is what I'm thinking of doing. What do you guys think? And it's just that having 2 or 3 outside perspectives and a formal meeting where you actually take minutes and you record everything. And then once you grow further, you then can start paying people to do that role for you. So in the beginning, you need to ask people, and they'll do it out of the kindness of their heart. But there's a lot of good businessmen you'll find in your area who might be prepared to do that. Some will say no. But everyone started from scratch, so they all know how difficult it is to start a business and to be successful. And what's nice about it too is when you get approached, or you're thinking of, okay, I'm going to appoint this agency, or I'm going to take on this new product, or I want to start this franchise or whatever, and you put it in front of them and you get their perspective and their view, just gives you that ability to step back and think a little bit more about big decisions in the business. Mm-hmm. So it works fantastically. And my advice is, even if you're really small, is to try and set up that board in the early stage. Even if you can't pay people, you will find people who can support you in that sort of function.
Yeah, there's actually
stop you making a lot of mistakes down the road.
Yeah, there's a book called Think and Grow Rich, and that's a way, a strategy which is called the mastermind strategy, where you're trying to bring like-minded people together. Not unlike what we're doing. You and I bounce stuff off each other nearly daily in both our own businesses. But yeah, surrounding yourself with the kind of people that are going to be supportive or that can help nurture what you're doing, rather than maybe surrounding yourself with the negative types, the people in your life that, although they, love you and support you, sometimes they don't really want you to grow because they're worried that you'll fall or you'll fail. But that's one of the biggest lessons you probably could get out of business, is that failure is the growth pathway. Sometimes when you stuff up, and you said this earlier, that you've stuffed up plenty of times in your businesses, that's where you grow the most, by realizing what doesn't work.